Chapter 1. The Eastern Region, Pingjiang Sect, Mufu Peak. It was the coldest month of winter, and the snow was white. The whole world looked white. Zhong Qing, dressed in a cotton-padded jacket, couldn't help sighing as he sat by the stove. He had been traveling through this world for 5 years, and he had stayed on Mufu Peak for 5 years. Although Mufu Peak was one of the 7 peaks of Pingjiang Sect, and he, Zhong Qing, was also given the title of Peak Master, it was actually useless. He, Zhong Qing, was able to become the Peak Master because of his stingy master, Nai Dao Ren. Other peaks were full of disciples, but Nai Dao Ren was alone, and he accepted him as a disciple only at the very end. Rather than believing that he had a crush on him, it is better to say that Nai Dao Ren had to accept a disciple, so he just picked one up on the roadside to complete the task. Because he was the first disciple accepted by Nai Dao Ren, it caused a sensation in Pingjiang Sect at that time. Zhong Qing also thought that he had some amazing talent and was looking forward to reaching the peak of his life. But who knew that he was a complete waste? And Nai Dao Ren did not pick up another one. On the contrary, he treated Zhong Qing with all the treatment he deserved. Originally, life was pretty good. Although there were only 2 of them in the entire Mufu Peak, Nai Dao Ren was not inferior to other peaks with his hard power, and no one dared to gossip. But who knew that Nai Dao Ren's life card was directly broken when he went out for a trip, leaving him with a little disciple who was crying for food. And because Nai Dao Ren made great contributions to the sect, Mufu Peak was not abolished, but Zhong Qing, the only disciple, inherited the position of the Peak Master. But the world is going downhill, and without the support of Nai Dao Ren, Zhong Qing's life is getting harder and harder. In fact, as a time traveler, Zhong Qing is not without the benefits of awakening time travelers. Less than a month after Nai Dao Ren's death, he awakened a system that allows him to sign in every day. Just when Zhong Qing thought he was finally on the peak of his life, he found that the system was really a piece of shit. Because signing in every day only rewards things, and it doesn't even touch the cultivation. For example, this holy level technique in my hand was obtained by signing in. The levels of techniques and magic weapons are divided into 1 to 9 grades, and after the 9th grade are King, Emperor, Honor, Holy, and Emperor. The holy level techniques are definitely not low, and throwing them out casually can cause a bloody storm, but for a useless person like him, having techniques without cultivation. What's the use? Zhong Qing threw it directly into the stove in front of him. The fire in the stove was blazing brightly, illuminating Zhong Qing's red face and warming him up a bit. After all, it was a saint-level technique. Would it be uncomfortable to burn it? Of course it would be uncomfortable. In such a cold day, how long can one book last? Will it freeze? Zhong Qing stood up and dragged a sack full of techniques from the side, and threw a few books into the stove from time to time to keep the stove burning. A pot of water was boiled on the stove, and because of the strong fire, it soon started to buzz. Zhong Qing made himself a cup of tea, and drank it in the cold winter, which was very comfortable. In fact, he has gained experience in the past few years. The techniques he got from signing in for a year were just enough for him to burn for the whole winter, but if he signed in a few more times for the golden ones, he might still have half a warehouse left after the winter. Of course, signing in doesn't just give techniques, but also magic weapons. For example, the axe for chopping wood at the door, the kitchen knife in the kitchen. In addition, the orchard and pond in the back mountain, the vegetable garden at the door and the scarecrow in the vegetable garden, including the 2 eggs in his hand, were all obtained by signing in. In short, there are all kinds of strange things. But even so, Zhong Qing is still speechless. No matter how powerful the martial arts and magic weapons are, they are equivalent to chicken ribs without cultivation. He is a typical example of guarding a golden mountain but not being able to use it. And he dare not leak these things out. He still understands the principle that a gentleman is innocent but guilty of holding a treasure. Fate plays tricks on people, fate plays tricks on people. At this moment, a stream of light appeared in the distant sky. Looking up, I found a white crane flying from the distant sky. No one comes to my shogunate peak all year round. Why is there someone coming to my door? When I was wondering, the white crane had already reached the top of my head, and above the white crane, there was a young boy standing high above. The 5-year disciple recruiting conference will begin tomorrow. The sect master ordered me to inform you to rush to the main peak of Xinjiang to attend the disciple recruiting conference. The boy looked at Zhong Qing teasingly, without even addressing him, and his eyes revealed a hint of mockery. He didn't understand the master's decision. What's the point of this useless person attending the disciple recruiting conference? Zhong Qing had a blank expression on his face. He had no interest in this disciple recruiting conference at all, and he was too lazy to go to such a place to be ridiculed. Just as he was about to refuse, the voice of the system came from his mind. The system has issued a new task. Please go to Xinjiang Peak to recruit disciples immediately. After successfully receiving the designated disciples, the useless person bond will be activated for the host. Useless person bond. 1/2 the cultivation speed of all disciples of the host is increased by 100 times, and all disciples' cultivation is returned to the host by 1000 times. 2/2 the cultivation speed of all disciples of the host is increased by 100 times, and all disciples' cultivation is returned to the host by 10,000 times. Upon hearing the voice of the system, Zhong Qing's calm expression suddenly brightened. 5 years. Is it finally here after 5 years of waiting? Is this gold mountain of his finally useful? And this bond system sounds too awesome. For example, just activating a single waste material can increase the apprentice's training speed by 100 times, and you can also return 1000 times. If it is superimposed, then if the apprentice practices for 1 day, it is equivalent to practicing for 100,000 days for you. As for activating the double waste material bond, it is even more awesome. Okay, I will definitely arrive tomorrow. Zhong Qing stood up and looked up and said, then you'd better leave immediately. After all, it's a long way from here to the main peak of Xinjiang. Don't arrive after the disciple recruiting meeting is over. The boy said with a teasing look on his face. In fact, it's not that I can't use the white crane to take you there, but my partner has a strange temper. If someone he doesn't like forces him to get on it, he will throw you off. After saying that, the boy smiled coldly and rode away on the white crane. Zhong Qing didn't care about what this guy said. As long as the bond is activated, it won't take long, not to mention this little boy, even if it's the entire Pingjiang Sect, what can it do? After a simple packing, he rushed towards the main peak of Xinjiang.